Let's talk about the Book of Revelation. For so many people, that name alone just means chaos, right? Bizarre visions, confusing prophecy. But what if that's a complete misunderstanding? What if, hidden in plain sight, Revelation is actually one of the most sophisticated and meticulously constructed literary masterpieces of the ancient world? I mean, that's the central question we're tackling here. Is Revelation just a jumbled, almost random sequence of visions? Or is it a carefully woven tapestry where every single thread is placed with absolute intention? It's so easy to get lost in the dragons and the horsemen, I get it. But a lot of scholars argue that to truly understand this book, you have to appreciate it not just as prophecy, but as a work of profound literary genius. And that's where the groundbreaking work of scholars like Richard Bauckham comes in. The argument is that Revelation's author, John, wasn't just passively taking dictation of his visions. Oh no. He was a literary artist, a composer using incredibly sophisticated techniques to build a text with amazing depth and a powerful unified message. Honestly, this is a book that was designed to be studied, not just read. So, to see how he did it, we're going to peel back the layers. First up, we'll look at the book's overall architectural blueprint. Then we'll zoom in on a really cool technique that creates what I'm calling a web of echoes. After that, we'll uncover a hidden numerical code that actually reinforces the book's theology. And finally, we'll put it all together to see the masterpiece by design. All right, let's start with the big picture. The book's macrostructure. Far from being this random collection of events, Revelation is built on a really clear and intentional framework. You can think of it like the steel skeleton of a skyscraper. It's the invisible structure that holds everything else up and gives it its incredible shape. You know, this quote from Bauckham, it just flips our usual approach right on its head. We often try to chop ancient texts into these neat little sections to make sense of them. But he argues that John's primary goal was the exact opposite. He was using these intricate literary devices to weave everything together, creating a seamless, integrated whole. And within this unified whole, John uses a recurring Greek phrase, in the Spirit, almost like a signpost to signal the major transitions. It's his way of guiding the audience through 5 main sections. It all kicks off with the vision of Christ and the churches. Then the scene shifts to heaven for that huge series of judgments. And this builds to the climax, these parallel visions of the fall of Babylon the harlot, a key transitional period, and then, finally, the glorious reveal of the New Jerusalem. And you can see this artistry in action right here. I mean, just look at the language used to introduce the visions of the corrupt city, Babylon, and the holy city, New Jerusalem. The phrasing is almost identical. This is not a coincidence, folks. It's a deliberate parallel, designed to set up this stark, unforgettable contrast between the 2 great symbolic women of the apocalypse, the harlot and the bride. Now let's look at those famous judgments, the seals, trumpets, and bowls. They aren't just 3 simple lists of 7. No. The first 2 series, the seals and the trumpets, they share this unique 4+3 structure. But between the 6th and 7th judgment in both of them, there's a dramatic pause, a literary device called an intercalation. These are intentional interruptions that create suspense and introduce crucial new ideas. But then, notice the bowl series. There is no intercalation. The pause is gone. The structure itself is screaming that the time for delay is over, and the final judgment is going to be rapid and unimpeded. So that's the grand architectural blueprint. But John's artistry extends far beyond that macrostructure. If we zoom in, we can see he also weaves the very fabric of his text with this complex network of repeated phrases and verbal echoes, linking everything together. It's pretty amazing. To understand why he does this, we need to know about an ancient interpretive technique called Gezerah Shawa. It's a simple but really powerful idea. If the same keyword or phrase appears in 2 different texts, you can use one passage to help shed light on the other. John basically wrote Revelation expecting his most careful readers to do this with his own work, inviting them to connect the dots between passages. Okay, let's see this in action. Here in chapter 12, we get this classic description of the great enemy. It's a string of 4 powerful titles: the great dragon, that ancient serpent, the devil, and Satan. Okay, keep that exact phrasing in your mind. Now, 8 chapters later in chapter 20, the phrase pops up again, But look closely. It's almost the same, but not quite. The grammar is different, some words are slightly altered. Bauchin points out that John almost never repeats a long phrase exactly the same way twice. He deliberately introduces these slight variations. This creates a richer, more complex network of allusions, rewarding the reader who is paying super close attention. This is pure artistry, not carelessness. All right, now for the third and perhaps most hidden layer of John's literary genius, a symbolic numerical code. Now, this isn't about numerology or predicting the future. It's about embedding theological meaning directly into the very count of keywords and phrases, a level of artistry that, honestly, only the most dedicated student of the text would ever uncover. So in Revelation, numbers carry immense symbolic weight. The most famous one, of course, is 7, representing divine completeness or perfection. It's no accident there are 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets. But it goes so much deeper. There are exactly 7 beatitudes or blessings scattered throughout the entire book, spelling out the complete picture of blessing for the faithful. The number 4, on the other hand, consistently represents the created world. Think of the 4 corners of the earth or the 4 living creatures around the throne. This symbolism is even built right into the Judgment series, where the first 4 seals and the first 4 trumpets are always directed at the physical world, the earth, the sea, the rivers, and the heavens. And here is where we see how John brilliantly combines these numbers for theological effect. Revelation's single most important title for Jesus is the Lamb. So how many times does this title appear? Exactly 28 times. And what is 28? Well, it's 7 times 4. The number itself proclaims the book's central message. The complete, that's the 7, victory of the Lamb over the entire world, that's the 4. It's just incredible. And this numerical symbolism is incredibly systematic. The title Lord God Almighty appears exactly 7 times. The word Christ also shows up 7 times. But now, look at the numbers for the evil powers. The dragon appears 13 times, the beast 38 times. You see, the numbers of perfection and of God's people, 7 and 12, are deliberately and consistently avoided for the forces of evil. Their very count signifies their inherent imperfection and their ultimate failure. Okay, let's pull all these threads together. When we look at the grand blueprint, this intricate web of echoes and this hidden numerical code, a completely new picture of Revelation emerges. This isn't chaos. It is a carefully composed symphony. We've seen these 3 distinct but deeply interconnected layers of literary artistry. At the highest level, you've got a clear architectural blueprint giving the book its unmistakable shape. Woven through that structure is a dense web of verbal echoes, linking every part to the whole. And then, hidden just beneath it all, is a precise numerical code, reinforcing the book's core theological message at every single turn. And this really is the ultimate takeaway. These aren't just clever literary games. They are the very means by which the author communicates his message. John has crafted a work that you can understand on one level just by hearing it read aloud, but which yields ever deeper layers of meaning for those who come back to study its structure, its echoes, and its numbers. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. When we pay attention not just to what a text says, but to how it says it, to its structure, its patterns, its deliberate artistry, how does that transform our understanding of its message? By appreciating the literary genius of Revelation, we don't just solve a puzzle, we gain a much richer, deeper, and more profound vision of this prophetic masterpiece.